You're listening to the Savoir Faire audio experience.
Are you ready?
The Savoir Faire experience is your guide to everything that has to do with lifestyle. From dating, rides, style, and entertainment. All brought to you by the editor of Savoir Faire magazine, Robert White. Anything goes on this audio experience. So, let's go.
It's still the best.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Savoir Faire audio experience. We are meeting so many cool people from all different walks of life, and our episodes go from entrepreneurs to music people to dating coaches. And so, like today, I'm actually really excited to talk with Tracy Dando, who is an entrepreneur herself, but she also has a very, very kind of unique story and a unique business that's focused in Central New York. So, Tracy, how are you doing today? How's the weather?
I'm great. It's beautiful outside. I can't complain.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're in Central New York. So you're more Albany kind of area. Is that considered Rochester?
It's interesting. I live in Rochester, but
Okay.
my business and everything, I grew up in Syracuse. So I'm a little bi-city right now.
Okay, makes sense. And I'm in Western New York, so I'm in the Finger Lakes region. So we're about an hour and a half from each other, which is kind of cool. So we're
Very
experiencing the same weather today, which is abnormally nice for like literally the day before Halloween.
Yeah, it's insane. Yes, we were just talking. Like we had snowsuits on at this point.
Yeah.
This is not normal for us.
Exactly. Yeah, we're kind of from the same generation too, which is very cool. Well, I'm glad we were able to connect, and I did a little bit of a dive into who you are and what you got going on. But I think the true like answers that I'm looking for, I can get straight from the mouth of you. So maybe you can just give me a little bit about your backstory and then talk a little bit about how your entrepreneur journey started.
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess I didn't plan on my entrepreneurship dream starting. I think for so many years, for most of my life, honestly, I was living in a place of survival. And so it was really just surviving day to day and what was going to get me to that next step. And so I never planned on creating a business, let alone a nonprofit. But all of it has led from my story and the process of healing myself and the people I have met along the way and the things that I have done that have worked and have not worked. And so this rollout of my life experiences led me to the creation of Safe Space and has ultimately led me moving forward into what safety looks like, not only in a community, but in workplaces and within relationships and within ourselves.
No, that's super cool. So your perspective, I guess, is kind of diving into yourself and being a little bit more vulnerable with like personal information, so you can connect with people around you that have the same thing going on, right? Like that's the compass of this, or the basic part of this, is to like just learn the skills to be able to release some of these things we hold, and you're kind of creating a safe space for people to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Because I do believe that as children, we unconsciously bring on, learn parts of ourselves or kind of learn roles in relationships. And so we sort of learn how and who we need to become to get our needs met. And so for me, I spent 20 years being, even more than that, 25 years being somebody that I wasn't. But I was so practiced at it that I didn't really know who I was. And it wasn't until I was in treatment for an eating disorder that I started to slowly remove some of those parts of myself that I thought I was and try these other parts on for size. And I realized that once I was able to do that, once I was able to find this authentic part of myself, I then could connect with others on such a deeper level. But that is where the vulnerability came in, because you have to be brave enough to put those parts of yourself out, not knowing how the other person is going to respond. So yeah, I just was amazed by the magic that happened through emotional connection. And I just wanted to recreate it in our own city.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I personally know that like when you dive into yourself, when you just sit by yourself even and you kind of reflect and do some things where you can release some of those things, even like, I don't know, I've talked to myself before. I'm in the process of writing a book about my personal life. So there's pen to paper kind of aspects in this. But I know for sure that when you start releasing some of this stuff that you may like have as a burden, then self-confidence grows. In general, like confidence grows. I feel like people get more outgoing. Their personalities shine a little bit better. There's just like things that trigger when you actually get to release some of the things that are holding you back or holding you down. And what I like about your story and what you're creating is that you're not just letting people do this thing completely by themselves, because there's multiple people that have similar issues or things that are happening to them, disorders, relationships, anything like that. And you're allowing to bring those people together so they can kind of vibe off of each other. But it's not like an AA thing, right? You're not doing like, oh, this is your partner for the next 6 months and they'll hold you accountable. This is friendships that are growing through this process.
Yeah, this is community that's growing. And we need community. We're human. It's one of our basic needs. Yet we've slowly transitioned away from community as a society. And so what we're seeing is we're seeing the health effects, the mental and physical, of people in isolation, of people that have lost their community. And so, yeah, Safe Space is that opportunity to create community around growth and around our pain. And so the goal is for people not to stay at Safe Space. The goal is to be there when you are in a time of transition and a time of need and going through something. And you sit there and you connect with other people that are going through it. And what happens is you give back to one another. You share experiences, you share tools, you share providers in the community. And this organic, like, thing happens all on its own. And it doesn't really take much. It's just creating that space and that opportunity, I found, was the biggest thing standing in the way for most people.
Yeah. Do you feel like people that maybe they haven't gotten the strength to even show up? Like, how do you reach out to those people? What's the push? Is it just awareness, like based on what you're doing and trying to find them where they are? Is that the kind of the idea of it?
Yeah, that's the idea. I think we've got to break down stigma, which is going to be an issue we're up against forever. At least my lifetime, our lifetime, because we've grown up with these beliefs around mental health, and they are ingrained in us. And so we are up against that, and we do have. I mean, one of our groups, we just say, like, get out of the car, like, just get out of the car. And I promise once you walk into the door, you will be glad that you did. It's just that fear of the unknown, the fear of sharing those parts of yourselves with complete strangers really holds people back. And so what we're trying to normalize is that you don't need to be at your breaking point. We're trying to help people before they get there. We're trying to normalize that grief and pain and sadness and all of that is meant to be done in community. Yet those are the parts of ourselves that we hide and that we're ashamed of. I mean, it's amazing how many people say, well, I'm just not emotional. And guess what? We're all emotional. You just have completely shut that part of yourself down completely. And so we have to learn how to tap back into that and feel safe enough bringing that part of ourselves up.
Yep, I totally agree with you. And that makes a lot of sense to me as well, obviously, because my generation was men need to be tough and you can't really break down this exterior, and like crying was a bad thing, like there was just an emotional kind of perspective. And when you had certain things that were happening in life, you went to the elders in your family to kind of get that information or figure out things, like I don't know how many times I've gone fishing or had a coffee with my grandfather who really just kind of became a life coach for me, because everything else was kind of shut off. Like I can't show this vulnerable part of myself to anybody but this one person. And the community aspect that you have is very cool. And I like the idea of just getting out of the car as a first step. I've talked to a lot of people, obviously in the mental health space, but also in the physical fitness space, on my podcast and things. And one guy that was a physical fitness guy was very motivated in the idea that just getting there is half the battle, and
Yeah.
and setting a routine and setting a schedule and making it a part of your life. And that is truly the hardest part to do. When it comes to, I think, mental awareness, though, I think people like have even tougher walls to overcome because they're of this upbringing, or I don't know, like the reflection of, are they going to judge me or something? So yeah, I think you've kind of created a cool little space where, and I wouldn't call them like complete strangers. You mentioned something about like being vulnerable in front of complete strangers. The idea, I guess, that you've created is people are going to come in, and maybe the first or second visit, that's a vulnerable space. You're letting go, you're shedding some, some things out of your system and off your body and whatever, like, mentally. But at the same time, you're building friendships. When two people literally connect over the same trauma or issue, that friendship becomes like really, really close. And
Yeah.
I think that's more of the idea of like, yeah, you're going to be vulnerable for a little while until you get to know these people. But when you figure out who they really are, then you're going to realize you have more in common than you don't. And that's where your deep friendships are going to come from.
Absolutely. And you start to challenge one another, and you start to encourage and support. And that's really what the men's group has turned into. I mean, it is a variety of men that have come from all different situations and scenarios, and you would never put this group together. Like, you would never put them together. But they have all walked in, and they have, like, there's a crew of them that have been there for over a year and a half now that continue to challenge and continue to cheer each other on. And the growth is insane, what they've been able to accomplish. And it just shows what we're capable of when we have the community around us to support us through it.
No, I love that. And I was checking out a couple of things on your website. So there's a couple websites you have, which is awesome. I love entrepreneurs that have their hands in like 20 different directions.
Definitely have a few things going on.
Because that's me too. I'm everywhere. And so when I was looking at the tracydando.com website, I saw some coaching stuff that was here. So it looks like there obviously is a safe space that you've created, but there also is some coaching aspects. And when I was looking at some of the services that you kind of focus on or things that you talk about, I wanted to kind of dive into each one. I think there's probably going to be some really solid little bullet points that you'll be able to give me in each of these topics. So I'll give you the topic. You give me a little bit of feedback on each one. We'll play a little game with what you have listed on your website. So the first one obviously is eating disorders. That's something that you lived through. You went through that. Talk to me a little bit about a couple bullet points on the recovery of an eating disorder.
Yeah, thank you. And I was diagnosed very young with an eating disorder, so it took many decades of my life, and I tried everything. I did every modality. I tried every recovery. I tried like treatment centers and medications, and I tried everything. And what I realized was that it was really all about building this toolbox, but it was also about going to the part of you that developed this eating disorder to begin with. Because the eating disorder is not you, it's a coping strategy. And we develop it as a survival mechanism at a specific time in our lives, because whatever we are going through, whatever environment we're in, it is too much. And so we create this false sense of safety through food or the lack thereof. And so what I found, what I needed was somebody like in the moment, when I am right there ready to use food or exercise in a way that's going to ultimately hurt me, that I needed that person to reach out to then. Was weekly therapy great? Absolutely. Were the tools great? Absolutely. But having that person was essential in my recovery. And so that is what really coaching is all about. It's about sort of saying, I've been there. I've been in your shoes. I have done everything you have probably done. I have lived in the shame and in the isolation that the eating disorder brings. And I am here to be right by your side through that and walk you to this other place of life and thriving and a life without an eating disorder. And so I studied with Carolyn Costin and have really developed it a little bit more based on my own recovery. And so that is kind of what got me into coaching to begin with.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, and thanks for those bullet points, because there's some stuff in there that definitely is going to kind of reach a broader horizon with people that will listen or read the article, things like that. So the next one I saw on here was transformational growth coaching. Can you talk to me about what that means and then dive into a couple points for me?
It's so funny because it's like I feel like I've played with that word, and it's really what I keep coming back to is growth. And because I feel like the journey I've been on, and I have been through so many experiences and come out the other side, there's this thing that I can see in people, and it's shared experience. When somebody else has gone through something that you have gone through, you see similarities in them. You see the way the way they talk or the way that they act. You can see where you used to be. And it's actually a guide when it comes to coaching because you can support them in their growth that way. So for many of the growth that the people I'm attracting a lot of men right now, as well as a lot of women that have been in some sort of an abusive relationship. And with that, we really identify where they're stuck, where their limiting beliefs are, their shadow work, what is holding them back. And then we start to rewrite that. We start to go back and say, when did we develop those thoughts and those beliefs around ourselves? Who made us believe those? And then we truly start to rewrite that through our actions, through our words, through our daily practices. So that is newer for me, and I'm really enjoying that type of coaching right now.
Yeah, I love that stuff too. And that's a kind of a deep dive too, because I'm looking at the bullet points on the website while we're talking about this topic. And there's like a developing self-awareness and gain clarity on your life purpose. And there's a confidence kind of building aspect that's built into transformational growth. And I love those things because that's a very universal topic, actually, right? Like building confidence is going to help you in your day-to-day life. It's going to help you deal with family. It's going to help you deal with your job. It's going to help you deal with so many different things if you can just dive into something like that. And if I think that if anyone feels kind of like overwhelmed by the idea of like, I'm not a very confident person, I like to be the wallflower when I was a kid, that was a different kind of perspective maybe, then this might be perfect for you because this is exactly where you're going to find like your inner superstar and allow yourself to open up to the world a little bit more. That's really the kind of cool piece that I like about this transformational growth coaching thing that you do, because that's a part that I needed for so many years. I've been through health issues and things like that, but I was the kid in elementary and middle school that was bullied heavily. I was kind of forced into this corner a lot in my home life and also in my school life. And I'm writing a book about all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it took me a ton of personal work and personal develop to be able to launch everything that I am doing now. And when I did, I became a completely different person than I ever was through my childhood. The things that
I love that.
Yeah, the things that I've accomplished, the people that I've met, the things that I've done, the drive to succeed that is in me, like I'm a completely different being knowing that I've gone through this self-awareness process that you are helping other people kind of tap into, which is amazing. Amazing. So,
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. And I want to dive into this one because I know this is a rabbit hole we could go down for a very long time. So I'm going to try to control this topic. But I'm the relationship coaching aspect and the dating. Oh my gosh. Like I watched some of your stuff before we connected today. I know that you've been down this hole a million times with a lot of people. So give me a little bit of the coaching aspect for relationships and then let's try to get back into like more of the meat and potatoes so we don't get lost in this rabbit hole, because I know that can be a deep dive.
Yeah, of course. I think it ultimately comes down to this. Our unconscious beliefs around ourselves attract our partners, the type of people we have in our lives. And so a lot of us every single one of us like to focus on our partners or the people we attract and blame them for our hurt, blame them for what happened to us. Like we focus constantly on the other instead of focusing on self. And when we focus on self, we realize that there are certain things about us that attracted that type of partner. So the real work when it comes to relationships is realizing, identifying that part in you, identifying what that was attached to, which is usually our earliest childhood wounds. It's our mom, it's our dad, it's where we learned what love and attachment was. And then start to rewrite that, what type of partner you do want in your life. But so much of that, even working with partners together, so much of that comes down to communication. And we can't communicate that part. We can't talk about those parts of ourselves with our partners until we identify them within ourselves. So it's still so much self-awareness. And then on top of that, it's being able to use the correct language and communicate that to your partner.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a whole lot of sense. Communication is the key to almost every solid relationship that I've ever seen that was positive or negative. It was like the one thing that kind of was the staple piece for everything. I mean, a healthy relationship is 100% built on a strong communication, obviously trust, and some other things that are perfect for people. But in this particular topic, I have a follow-up question for you. So in this relationship coaching aspect, and really being able to look within yourself and figure out what attracted that other person. What if you can't find that? What's the little homework assignment that you give people to find that piece?
Oh, to like find what parts are.
Yeah, because I mean, pulling back like some of the healthy talk here. What if it just comes down to the fact that you're an attractive person, and that's the whole reason why you got this person in the first place? And now you have to figure out like what else is the reason why they're here, like the very superficial kind of aspects, like trying to dive into something a little bit deeper and get past the idea that, well, we're just two attractive people that we're attached to each other because we're attractive.
I mean, I think that's a really good question. I think most people, not everybody needs, well, this is what I'm finding. Not everybody needs this deep, unconditional love. Like there are people that are content with a more surface level, safe type of love where they're not having these in-depth conversations. And I do believe really identifying that we're all here for a reason, and some of us are here to grow and evolve, and some of us are here to show us what it doesn't look like to grow and evolve. And
right.
I do think that each relationship that comes into our lives is teaching us something. It's a lesson, because if it's stuck, it was meant to be there. And so when it comes to just, I think attractive people attract all of the types. And that is, it's up to them if they're looking for just another attractive person, or if they're looking for like a deep emotional connection on top of that.
I like it. I mean, I almost want to call it superficial, because that's like exactly what I feel is happening there, is that, I'm going to give you an example that makes this like more of a clarity thing. A very successful businessman who's extremely vain perhaps, and like wants to show off his boat and his house and whatever. His whole situation is, I want my girlfriend to be a 10 because everyone's going to be paying attention to what I have and not who I am. And that's kind of the aspect that I see often, because I work
everywhere.
Yeah, I'm deep in the press. I'm deep in the entertainment industry. This is the vibe. It's not about, it's so sad almost, because I know a lot of women that buy a dog to have it as a prop for their life and not to actually have a pet, right? Like these little, pocket purse dogs or whatever that people are buying. And men kind of have this perspective where, that's an attractive woman that's really going to look good on my resume, instead of the idea of building a really deep connection with somebody and having a serious relationship. And that's the aspects of this that drive me crazy, because so many, I mean, from my perspective, so many women are like okay with that kind of atmosphere. And why are you? Why is the guy like that's the good guy finished last concept, I guess, right? Like, why is the guy that is working his butt off, doing everything right, wants the deeper connection, not getting the girl, when the guy with all the money and the nonsense is pulling everybody because he can just give them a lifestyle and there's no deeper connection? It's so weird.
Yeah. It's an awareness thing, and it's a safety thing. So usually when I see a gentleman that is dating very below him in age, but she's gorgeous, right? And he's
Yep.
a
Yep.
high achieving. To me, it speaks volumes about his own self-worth and his own beliefs, because he's not looking for a deep emotional connection. He's looking to have someone that looks good on his arm. And to me, that's also an awareness thing, and how much work and growth that individual has done. So it's very telling to me. And honestly, when I see that, I feel bad. I
Yeah.
feel bad because it tells me that that individual has no idea what they're missing out on, no idea what the power of a deep emotional connection can feel like. And for me, there's a lot for when you look at the woman that's choosing that, usually it's telling me they've had some sort of trauma with a male in their life, and they're looking for someone to take care of them.
All right,
And
I'll
so,
say it, Tracy, so you don't have to. Sugar daddies and daddy issues, and I'll give you the ones that like most people talk
yeah,
about.
we've got a ton of terms. We got a ton of terms, but it's a real thing. There is safety in money
absolutely.
for a lot of women. There is safety, that you are going to take care of me. And so, yeah, I think most people can see right through that, though. Nobody's looking at that and saying that's a deep love, and like we can see right. We know what's going on.
Absolutely can see through that. Yeah, absolutely can see through it.
So it's people's. We're all at a different level of growth, and I truly believe we all signed up for something this lifetime. And some of us, like I said, are meant to do the work and evolve, and some are not. So.
Exactly. All right. Good point. I'm glad to see you have perspective.
I do. I got a little bit of perspective.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, cool. Well, talk to me. Let's switch gears here a little bit, come back into this entrepreneur journey of yours, because what's kind of cool about some of this stuff for me is, I mean, I just love the hustle. I respect it a million times. I'm also that way. I have a lot of different projects, a lot of different things happening all the time. I can't just focus on one thing. That's what I've always been told. But you seem to have a very similar personality. So talk to me a little bit about your future plans with your brand's Safe Space organization. Do you want to keep it in New York? Is there expansion coming? Route to Rise? What kind of things do you have going on in the future?
Great questions. So with Safe Space, no, my goal is to take it out of New York, to tell you the truth. The goal is to create such a sturdy non-for-profit that it can be brought into other communities and molded. And so we are working through that right now. I never planned on creating a nonprofit, so I didn't know anything about nonprofits, to tell you the truth. And so I have fumbled my way through that, but in doing so, learned so very much. So that is the future plan for Safe Space. And then with Route to Rise, that's a collaboration with two of my best friends here in Syracuse. And Megan and Jamie both have their own businesses in sort of a similar realm, creating community and healing. And so we have one more retreat. That's a 3-day retreat in January. And then we're deciding how we're moving forward, how we're going to adapt and continue to be able to create that experience for everybody while giving back. So that's the plan with Route to Rise. And then for me personally, I am loving the speaking right now. I just did my first TED Talk, and I'm really trying to get more involved speaking on stages and getting my voice out there more. And I don't really know how that looks yet. I'm starting my first book. I just am really trying to feel out a couple of different avenues on what Tracy is outside of Safe Space and Route to Rise and my story, because I'm not my past anymore. So it's really stepping out of who I was and everything I went through, which created Safe Space, and into this other person. And I still think I'm trying to figure out who she is a little bit.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that you're kind of doing a lot of self-reflecting on the same time that you're preaching about it too, because I'm in the same boat you are. I'm in a very thick place right now where business is good, things are growing, I'm getting things out there. But at the same time, I'm doing a lot of self-reflection. I'm analyzing how I grew up. I'm analyzing my family, friends, connections. I'm analyzing my business perspective and trying to build this person that I am. I'm working on the book. The book is going to be clearly my calling card to be able to do a lot of this public speaking stuff that you're talking about. That's what I want to be the focal point. Like, hey, this is the reason why I should be on your stage, by offering this book, and then obviously building some other pieces to that. So I love that we're kind of on the same life path, which is cool, because that's you know, like we were talking about earlier with the people that are connecting under similar trauma or whatever. I mean, we might have a friendship after this because we clearly have a similar path that's very unique. When you talked about your retreat with Meg and Jamie, right? So talk to me a little bit about that last one in January. How do people get in touch? How do they reach out? What are you looking for? All that.
Awesome. Thank you. So it's the weekend of January 18th. It's the 17th through the 19th. It's a 3-day. We've got 20 spots available. We have rented out all of Vander Camp, and we have this very inclusive 3-day retreat planned, which if anybody's been to the 1 day, it's a powerhouse. So we are excited about bringing 3 days together. And so if you go to route to rise CNY.com, you'll have all the information. I think we're about halfway sold out at this point. So we have payment plans available, and we are kind of welcoming anybody that's feeling a pull, men, women over the age of 18. Everybody is welcome. And so, yeah, we're really, really excited about that. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, very cool. And I'll definitely get that links and stuff from you so we can make sure that's in the article that we're going to release, but also on the podcast notes too, so people can just have an easy click to go check that stuff out. So Tracy, you're extremely impressive. I love connecting with people that are upstate New York as well. I mean, that's vibe for me. We grew up in this kind of interesting world and environment, and become successful business owners and create. And that's something that I've always kind of connected with other people. I cherish those kind of relationships because I know there's always a vibe to be able to network and work off of each other and share ideas with each other. It's like a safe place to trust somebody because, you know, they're in the same space. So, you know, thank you so much for finding time to connect and do this interview and be on the podcast. Like super, super grateful for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, excellent. So I'm going to let you go back to enjoying this lovely October day, which is also my plan. And
wonderful.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch. Thank you so much.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the show. Please take a minute to head over to www.savfair.com and subscribe to our publication.